The silence of Sector 7G wasn't peaceful, it was the holding breath of a graveyard. This used to be a hyper-advanced automated logistics hub, a shining jewel of Federation technology. Now it was a sprawling ruin of silent chrome and dead circuits. The air above it shimmered with invisible predators, the viral electroxenomorphs or VX. They are entities composed of pure energy and corrupted information that live in the electromagnetic spectrum. They hunt emissions. A radar ping is a dinner bell. A Wi-Fi signal is a pheromone trail. An active AI core is a feast that allows them to manifest physical forms, shifting, glitching constructs of hard light and razor-sharp metallic shards that can slice through plasteel like wet paper. The survivors of FOB Echo, a platoon of terrified technicians and Marines, were huddled in the basement of a gutted data center. They had learned the hard way: turn on a flashlight and you die. Use a radio and the air turns into knives. They were slowly starving in the dark, trapped by their own advanced technology, which had become a lure for the monsters outside. Then the ground started to shake. It wasn't the smooth hum of grav tanks or the whine of fusion engines. It was a rhythmic, tectonic pounding that vibrated in the teeth. A deep, guttural roar of combustion and grinding gears that hadn't been heard on a battlefield in 3 centuries. The 7th, Analog Ghosts, Armored Division had arrived. We didn't beam in. We rolled in. Leading the charge was the Old Bess, a 60,000-ton, ironclad land battleship. She was a monstrosity of riveted steel plating, inches thick, utterly devoid of microchips, targeting computers or energy shielding. Her heart was a massive coal-fired steam boiler that vented thick plumes of oily black smoke into the pristine alien sky. She was steered by hydraulic levers and brute muscle. Her main guns were 200mm rifled cannons loaded by hand with chemical propellant charges and dumb, solid steel kinetic penetrators. I am Commander Smokestack Vance, shouting orders through a brass speaking tube because a digital comms network would get us all killed in seconds. Stoke the fires. All ahead full. Target the center of the emissions cluster. I roared, the sound of the boiler room deafening. The VX reacted instantly. The electromagnetic spectrum above the FOB went wild. They sensed movement, heat, and raw kinetic energy, but they couldn't see us. There were no digital signals to latch onto, no shields to drain, no automated systems to hack. We were a massive blind spot of roaring steel charging into their hunting ground. A VX swarmer cloud, thousands of jagged, glitching light forms, descended on the Old Bess. They tried to phase through the hull to attack the crew, but they met only cold, dense steel and heavy lead insulation. They skittered across the armor plating, sparking furiously, looking for a data port or an energy conduit that didn't exist. Main guns. Fire for effect. Clear the courtyard. The gunnery crew slammed the breach shut. K.O.M. The sound was a physical blow. The massive cannon fired, spewing orange flame and smoke. The recoil rocked the entire 60-ton behemoth on its massive treads. The 200mm high explosive shell screamed across the courtyard. It didn't track a target, it just followed the laws of ballistics until it impacted the center of the VX swarm. The explosion was raw chemistry and physics. The blast wave shredded the coherent energy forms of the VX. They didn't bleed, they pixelated, fracturing into showers of harmless sparks that dissolved into the air. The sheer concussive force disrupted their energy matrices faster than they could reform. Infantry. Deploy. Keep them off the treads. The side hatches of the ironclads clanged open and the coal walkers poured out. These weren't power-armored space marines. They were soldiers in thick, fire-retardant leather trench coats, heavy rubber boots, and insulated gas masks to breathe through the smoke of our own making. They carried weapons that required no batteries, pump-action shotguns loaded with crystalline shatter rounds, heavy flamethrowers fueled by thickened diesel, and hydraulic-assisted pickaxes for close quarters. The battle for FOB Echo became a chaotic, swirling melee of steam, smoke, and glitching neon light. The VX, confused and enraged by prey they couldn't track, lashed out wildly. They formed shard spikes, lances of hard light, and flung them at the soldiers. A pike caught Private Jenkins in the shoulder, punching through his heavy coat, but the lack of powered armor meant there were no servos to lock up or batteries to explode. He grunted, broke the light shard off, and answered with a 15-second burst from his flamethrower. The VX hated the fire. The intense thermal energy disrupted their coherence fields. The glitch forms shrieked, a sound like dial-up static amplified to stadium levels, as the diesel flames consumed them, boiling away their energy until they dissipated into nothing. Commander. The VX are converging. They found a signal. My spotter yelled from the cupola, pointing through the smoke with field binoculars. In the center of the FOB, the main fusion reactor's containment unit was damaged. It was leaking a massive, unshielded distress beacon signal, a clarion call to every VX in the hemisphere. The entities were swarming it, absorbing the energy, growing larger and more stable. They were coalescing into a signal titan, a 50-foot-tall monstrosity of crackling blue lightning and shifting scrap metal it had pulled from the ruins. It roared, causing the very air to ionize, and began to turn the FOB's own automated defense turrets against us. Laser fire began to rake the hull of the old Bess, scoring lines in the thick steel but failing to penetrate. They're feeding on the reactor. If that titan fully manifests, it'll EMP this whole sector and fry our nervous systems. I realized. We couldn't shoot the reactor. A breach would kill the survivors in the basement. We had to kill the signal, physically. Divert all steam to the forward hydraulics. Prepare the pile driver. The old Bess didn't just have guns. Mounted on her bow was a massive, steam-driven industrial demolition hammer, used for crushing fortified bunkers. We're going to ram it. Helm hard to port. Line up the shot. The ironclad groaned under the strain as we swung the massive beast around, its treads chewing up the plasteel pavement. The boiler pressure gauges were redlining, steam venting furiously from safety valves with ear-splitting whistles. The signal titan saw us coming. It turned its massive, glitching head towards us and unleashed a torrent of concentrated microwave radiation. The interior of the tank got instantly hotter. Sweat flashed into steam on our skin. The few remaining battery-powered wristwatches among the crew exploded on their arms. But the old Bess kept moving. Her systems were mechanical. There was nothing to fry. Brace for impact. Engage pile driver. We slammed into the base of the signal titan at 40 kilometers per hour. The collision was horrific. 60 tons of analog steel meeting a being of pure energy and stolen metal. The titan buckled but tried to hold its ground, its massive energy claws tearing at the tank's glassy plate, ripping off layers of armor. I pulled the release lever for the main steam piston. K-chuck. The massive steel hammerhead shot forward with thousands of tons of hydraulic force behind it. It smashed directly into the exposed control panel of the leaking fusion reactor that the Titan was guarding. The impact crushed the reactor's control rods and severed the main power coupling. The distress signal died instantly. The effect on the signal Titan was catastrophic. Deprived of its massive energy food source, its cohesion field collapsed. The towering monstrosity let out a final deafening shriek of static that shattered every remaining window in the FOB. Then it simply fell apart. The metal scrap it had gathered crashed to the ground, and the energy composing its body dissipated into a harmless, shimmering fog that quickly faded. The silence returned, heavier than before, broken only by the rhythmic chug-chug-chug of the old Bess's idling steam engine and the crackle of cooling metal. We opened the hatches. The air was thick with the smells of sulfur, burning diesel, and victory. The survivors from the basement slowly emerged, blinking against the sunlight and the smoke. They looked at us, covered in soot, grease, and carrying weapons that belonged in a museum, like we were aliens. Their high-tech gear was useless junk. Our junk had just saved their lives. "Nice of you to join the party," I yelled down to the stunned Marine lieutenant, wiping coal dust from my goggles. "Sorry about the mess. We don't do subtle." Humanity had just proven a vital point in the Extinction War. Progress isn't always a straight line forward. Sometimes, to survive a new enemy, you have to reach back into the past. The VX had mastered the digital age, so we brought the Industrial Revolution to their doorstep and beat them to death with it. We are the analog ghosts. We don't have Wi-Fi. We have steam, steel, and enough kinetic energy to kill anything that glows.